Jason here. Jason is over here. I am in Harpers Ferry, West by God, Virginia, IA. Again. Because I don't live far from here. Hopefully the wind's not hitting the mic. Just checking out the Camp Hill area store college area. And just checking out some of the signage, views, buildings, etc. Come on along. Virginia Lodge number 1. The brick house in front of you was once part of the United States Army complex. Prominent Army officials lived along this street during the Civil War. Union soldiers camped and drilled here. Inside the house, they scrawled their names on the plaster walls. After the war, the house became a new home of the Oddfellows, a fraternal and charitable organization. The old industrial town of Harpers Ferry was well suited for odd fellowship. Life was hard here, and the lodge supported members and families facing illness, injury, and or death. And look at that picture right there. It's just about right where we're standing at. I love the now and then stuff. Check out that wellhead. Look at that. That's the first time I've ever seen one like that. Hand crank. It's got gears on it. And the manufacturer, looks like it says Boss right there. That is really neat looking. So we are on Camp Hill, Store College area. Both forces during the Civil War camp here. So over there you have Bolivar Heights. There you have Maryland Heights. There you have Loudon Heights. Hopefully the sun isn't too bad. So you figure you're positioned here. You have a line of troops going across Bolivar Heights over there. And you have enemy forces on that mountain range, enemy forces on that mountain range, all zeroing in on this position and Bolivar Heights. And on the opposite side of those heights is Schoolhouse Ridge, where there is the bulk of the force of the Confederacy. So what took place here was the largest capture of Union forces. They were completely surrounded and just being bombarded. Stonewall Jackson was leading that, and I think it was 14,000 to 15,000 troops captured. A land divided. You are standing near what was once an international border. During the Civil War, the peak to your left lay within Union State of Maryland. Loudon Heights to the right was claimed by the Confederate State of Virginia. Slavery divided the nation, and here at Harpers Ferry, the two sides clashed over the meaning of freedom. Both the Union and Confederate armies used the field right here as a campground and training field at different times during the war. Also, thousands of formerly enslaved African Americans flocked to the Union camps at Harpers Ferry to seek the protection of the Union Army. Classified as contraband, they faced an uncertain future. Foundations of Freedom. Civil War camp to college campus. Harpers Ferry, including Anthony Hall, which is right here, played host to large and small scenes in the epic human struggle for freedom and equality. In this building, Civil War generals planned their next attack. In fields around you, Union and Confederate soldiers battled over a divided land. On the Store College campus, formerly enslaved people strove to obtain the education previously denied them by law. That was the happiest time of my life. Female students arriving here at Cook Hall Dormitory were greeted with a welcoming letter that advised them, here you will come as refuge From the strangest of perplexities of campus life, here you will fight your battles of adjustment to new surroundings. Here you will gain new understanding of community, living, and friendships. Storer College provided a refuge from the pressures of segregated society. Students flourished within the structure of the Storer community. Football teams played on the field before you, and literary clubs and musical groups met in the buildings around you. Heads versus hands. We want our children trained as intelligent human beings should be, and will fight for all time against any proposal to educate black boys and girls simply as servants and underlings, or simply for the use of other people. They have a right to know, to think, to aspire. W.E.B. Du Bois, 1905. A national controversy regarding the education of African American students played out in the building right here. Throughout its history, Storer College faced great difficulty attracting funding. Most white benefactors favored trade school training for African American students in order to attract better financial backing. Storer College opened this industrial arts building in 1905. The following year, W.E.B. Du Bois spoke out on this campus against training only the hands and not the minds of African American students. We claim ourselves every single right that belongs to a free-born American, political, civil, and social. Until we get these rights, we will never cease to protest and assail the ears of America. The battle we wage is not for ourselves alone, but for all true Americans. In 1906, a civil rights organization called the Niagara Movement held its second annual meeting on the Storer College campus. The conference organizers carefully chose the location of the movement's first meeting on American soil. They selected Harpers Ferry for its rich history, including the John-bound reign to end slavery, and Storer College for its commitment to education for people of all races. Just another view. Morel House. Check her out. This house was built in 1858 as quarters for the U.S. Army paymaster's clerk and his family. The clerk helped the paymaster manage the Army's complex budget and payroll, and assisted also with the collection of government quarters, rent, and the oversight of Armory contracts. Soon after the establishment of Storer Normal School, later college, in Harpers Ferry in 1867, Reverend Alexander Morel of Maine came south into the Shenandoah Valley as a missionary for the Free Will Baptists. Morel preached and taught in the area for nearly 20 years, and this house, in which Morel and his family once resided, was named in honor of his dedicated service. As I normally do, my curiosity loves to walk around, and as long as there's no trespassing signs, I kind of will look at things. So this is owned by the National Park Service, so this is no big deal, but I just kind of poke my head around through here. So this looks like an old possible carriage wheel or wagon wheel of some type, which they may have dug up. You can see where the hub is broken. Look at that. So it's probably one of these many of rubbish piles around this area. But I was just walking down. This is just a neat little corridor. It's under the front area here. You can see where at some time they plastered over. Back to the original stuff here. Look at the old slabs. The old stone, look at that. You can see the chisel marks. Look at that, that's cool. Old brick and stuff down here. Just for fill. The Brackett House, built in 1858. This house served as the home for the U.S. Army Superintendent's clerk. An assistant to the superintendent, the clerk's responsibilities included drafting correspondence, filing reports, arranging schedules, and ensuring the smooth operation of the superintendent's office. After Storer College was established for freedmen in 1867, the building was named to honor Dr. Nathan Brackett, educator, minister, administrator, and financier, who helped found the college and served as its first principal. Brackett arranged to have this and 3 other fine old mansions in the upper town, dilapidated and abandoned after the Civil War, turned over to the college by the government. The Brackett House currently is not open. There are some old and very beautiful homes up here on this upper street in Harpers Ferry. The Lockwood House. With its commanding view of Harpers Ferry and the Potomac River Gap, this house has witnessed significant chapters in Harpers Ferry history. It was built in 1847 as quarters for the U.S. Army Paymaster and later served as headquarters for Union generals and Henry H. Lockwood and Philip H. Sheridan during the Civil War. After the war, Storer Normal School, later college, one of America's first schools for freed slaves, began here. For almost a century, black students and Free Will Baptist Church staff utilized this building. Today, its exterior is restored to the Civil War period, but 2 rooms are furnished as they were during its early Storer College occupancy. Be it a cemetery. You probably couldn't have picked a more gorgeous spot. And I want to find one particular grave in this graveyard. Hopefully it doesn't take too long. That is the Robert Harper, namesake of Harpers Ferry. That's his sisters. And this gentleman is doing grave restoration. Harper Cemetery. Passing through this region in 1747, Robert Harper, a Pennsylvania architect, contracted to build a Quaker church in the Shenandoah Valley, was so impressed by the beauty of this place and the water power potential of the Potomac and Shenandoah rivers that he settled here and founded Harpers Ferry. When Harper died in 1782, there were only 3 houses in the town. Optimistic about the community's potential for growth, however, Harper had set aside this 4-acre cemetery. Childless, Harper left most of his estate to his niece Sarah, who subsequently married a wager. As you wander around this cemetery, you'll find grave markers of some of Wager's descendants. So right there is where Mr. Robert Harper lies, the namesake and founder of the town of Harpers Ferry. We know there was only 3 buildings standing when he died, but he saw the potential. And so did George Washington. That's why the armory was built here. And I was speaking to a few of the persons over there, and they are restoring the graves and just doing a phenomenal job here in the graveyard. And here also sits Nathan Cook Brackett, founder of Storer College, and his wife. And looks like some other family members also. Just a little famous rock down there. Jefferson Rock. You ever heard of it? Pretty famous. You know when you're out of shape and you're hiking and you're out of breath, huffing and puffing for your life, and people want to have a conversation? It's always nice to live in a community with some friendly people. She asked me if, did I get in your picture? I said, no, that's part of it. Well, headed back to the Super Prius. I'm done with this adventure for the day. Saw a lot of cool stuff. Actually spent quite a bit of time here just walking around, reading stuff, hiking a little bit of the Appalachian Trail. Literally, I mean little, like 30 yards. Jason's over here. Please like and subscribe.